Old model steamboats in poor condition, part 16, working on the rudder, cleaning it up and then painting it, after which I machine a brass operating arm to connect to one of the radio control servos. And what I'm doing at the moment is using a needle file to smooth down the soft solder that holds components in place on the rudder. I don't think I'd make a rudder this way. I would use silver solder, which is a lot stronger. Silver solder is solder with silver in it. It doesn't refer to the colour of the solder because silver solder is actually more of a brassy colour than silver. In my workshop I have many pieces of wood like this, and this is a painting jig. And I made this particular jig, which was very easy to construct, to support the front wheels of my Stirling single while the paint dried. I drilled a hole in part of the jig so I could push the rudder shaft into it. And first of all I'm going to paint the rudder using this stuff. This is Phoenix Precision Paints Grey Single Pack Etch Primer. I've used this type of etch primer for many years and I find it to be very effective, provided you read the instructions. And the first thing to do is to shake the can for about 2 minutes. In this clip I've put my wooden jig into my vise, and now the rudder is at the right angle to be painted. The instructions that come with this Phoenix Precision Paints Etch Primer state very clearly that you must not apply the paint too thickly to the component. You need to still be able to see the metal underneath the paint. So it's a very light coat, and then, most importantly, you need to wait at least 24 hours before overcoating with your top coat or any other kind of primer. If you dive into this job and apply a really thick coat of the etch primer, just like you would with a normal filler primer, and overpaint within the 24-hour period, you will find that the etch primer is not doing its job and the paint will not stick to the brass properly. And once it's all dried and looking good, the paint will flake off with the slightest provocation. 24 hours has now elapsed since I painted the rudder with etch primer, and it's time to paint it with the red paint. I mixed sufficient red paint to paint the hull and I have some left. As you can see here, the rudder is still plugged firmly into my jig that I made, and I'm supporting the other end on a piece of 2x1 that I found in my box of assorted pieces of 2x1. To paint the rudder I'm using this superb paintbrush that I bought from the Leeds model shop. It's absolutely wonderful. I've shown it in a couple of other videos and it really is a nice brush. For painting jobs like this I do prefer to use flat brushes with very soft bristles because you don't get any brush marks and you get a good coverage of paint, and the paint coverage is always even. And brushes like this are also very good for applying varnish. In this clip you can see the advantages of using a jig to support the work. It allows me to position the rudder horizontally so I can apply more paint. If the rudder was vertical, then the paint may run, because I generally always paint on the drip with this kind of enamel paint. What that means is I put a lot of paint on, I get good coverage, the brush marks will disappear as the paint dries, and the top coat will be firmly stuck to the etch primer, which in turn, after 24 hours, is firmly stuck to the brass underneath. Just to reiterate, if you put too much etch primer on and paint over it with the top coat too quickly, the etch primer cannot do its job, so the paint will not be firmly stuck to the brass. And even before you finish the model, you will find that you have to do a lot of touching up as the paint flakes off it, which is very annoying seeing as it takes a long time to paint these components. I also bought an unpainting brush, so I'm going to just test it out now. This brush looks and feels identical to the brush that I applied the paint with, but there the similarity ends. This brush is entirely different. You can see what it's doing, and this unpainting brush removes the paint just as well as the other brush applied it. If I'm honest, I think that unpainting is more satisfying than actually painting. But in the end I used the other brush and repainted it. Originally I presumed that this shaft was 3/16 of an inch in diameter, but it's not. It's 4.8 millimeters. I bought these digital calipers recently, and they came from the centre aisle of a local supermarket, and they're quite good, very well made. I'm so used to using micrometers I could never really get my head round how thin the jaws are on these calipers, and if you don't hold them at 90 degrees to the work, you may get a false reading. I have two choices with this control arm, the first one being to fabricate it, and the second one, which I'm going to use, cut it out of a solid block of brass. The finished size of this control arm will be exactly the same size as the arm that's fitted to the servo, and the piece of brass is exactly 1.5 inches in diameter. And without further ado, it's straight into the machining. I'm going to turn down the front part of this piece of brass bar down to about 5/8 of an inch in diameter. The finished diameter will be 1/2 inch. If you watch the video to the end, you will see why initially I turned it to 5/8 of an inch in diameter. Machining this part from the solid is a bit of a waste of brass really. Most of it goes into the chip tray, but it's a good exercise for a beginner. And that's what these videos are always all about, helping the beginner to get good results easily and quickly. Just for once, because a few viewers have requested it, I've left the operation running in real time. The clip is not speeded up in the editor, this is the speed at which I cut the metal. But I will be speeding the clip up shortly because I really am in danger of slipping into a coma. And this is the final cut. And what I need to do now is take a facing cut across the front of the work just to clean up the surface. And finally it's done. So it's now time to drill a hole in the centre. First of all with a centre drill because I want this to be accurate. And because the centre drill is such a short stubby thing, it doesn't wander about, it makes an accurate hole in the centre of the work. So once I drilled the hole using a 4.8mm drill bit, the rudder shaft was an almost perfect fit in the hole. When it came to parting off the piece of brass, it was too big for my small parting tool that I use in the Boxford lathe, so I just cut off the last bit using a hacksaw. You can do this under power in the lathe using a hacksaw, but I prefer not to. In this clip I'm reversing the part in the chuck. What I'm about to do is machine the other side, because this disc of brass is far too thick for the job I need it to do. And now, with the video speeded up, I can get on with the job at a much higher speed. This brass disc needs to be reduced in thickness so that the clevis fits on it. You will notice that I'm still leaving a boss in the centre. Apart from it looking okay, you will see why very shortly. Once I machined the disc to the thickness of the inside area of a radio control clevis, I marked out the position where I need to cut off the excess metal. As I cut the brass disc to shape, the bandsaw blade is marking the centre boss, but that's not a problem, that's why I left it slightly oversized. Once I've finished cutting and cleaning up the brass, I will put it back in the chuck and machine both sides. So the centre bosses at each side of the arms will be perfect. And that's also why I machined a register on the top of the component so I could reverse it in the chuck to machine the boss to the same diameter at the other side. Apart from a bit more polishing, the part is completed. Here you see the principle. This is a standard metal radio control clevis and it fits the hole perfectly. And now over to the drilling machine. With the part securely clamped in the machine vise, I'm using a centre drill to drill the hole for the grub screw. Then I changed the centre drill for a twist drill, which is tapping size for 6BA. I then threaded the hole and fitted a pinch bolt. This is a before and after shot. On the right hand side is the original control arm. In the centre is the part that I've just made, and on the left of the picture is just what's left of the brass block after I machined this part. And that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.